I think in documentary filmmaking, more often than not, the project picks you. You don't pick the project. It's just something that really strikes you and that kind of hits close to home somehow. And for me, I was never allowed to play with furry animals as a kid. I had allergies, so I couldn't play with dogs or cats, all the neighborhood animals that everyone seemed to have. But being in Seattle, there was no shortage of rain and wet environments for amphibians and reptiles, snakes, all that. So I developed a real fondness for frogs and other critters in the backyard, and it just kind of stayed with me. I'd read about the story as a kid, 4th, 5th grade, and I read other Mark Twain stories, Huck Finn, Tom Sawyer. I always thought Calaveras County was in Mississippi somewhere, but I was pleasantly surprised to find out it was Northern California. And I was reading more about it a few years back and figured, hey, this would be a great opportunity to finally justify my going up there and really digging in and finding out more about it. Started making some phone calls. George is like a Don Quixote. It's like a frog-jumping Don Quixote. He had these big goals for breaking into the ranks of the top jumpers. And he's just an individual, though. And he's a great guy. I think he, slightly delusional about how much impact he could make. He didn't really make the finals or get that far in his jumps, but he caught the fire. I think we'll see him back. He seemed like he might have a short fuse, got a little frustrated quickly, but talking with him afterwards and all that, he really did have a good time. And who knows, he might start his own team and really make a splash sometime. So I'd love to see that. Starbucks team, I thought we had a good angle there. I thought it was going to be the big monster corporation coming in and just squashing this long-standing cultural history of the area, giving out Starbucks samples and big sponsorship banners everywhere. But you know what? They were really great, just down-to-earth local people. Wanted nothing to do with changing the fare or the history of it or anything like that. They just had a great time. They did not do well at all, as you saw, and they didn't care. And they were just there to have a good time and kind of participate in the community. So, there went the angle, but it was still fun watching them, and there were other angles. For someone coming from Los Angeles, you might think, okay, we're out in the middle of nowhere, but there's certainly a lot of history in those foothills. It's where a lot of the gold rush took place. And there's a lot of crazy stories from way back then. And you really do get a sense of history and of the families who have been around there for generations, and they haven't moved very far from where their ancestors landed out there. And it might only be 150 years, 200 years, but that is a long time when you're considering it's out in the western frontier lands. So it's just a really great vibe out there, and I'm going to go back. I had a great time taking my kids there the next year, and it's really just a fun place to jump frogs, if nothing else. But there's a lot more there too.